What you know, Alibis? Welcome to another episode of Pretty Lies and Alibis. I'm Gigi. It's Monday, August 4th. Taking a break from the Brian Kohberger documents to catch up on Kouri Richins. Also, been digging through some older documents and picking out some little nuggets that I haven't found before, as well as diving into what we know about her lover that she was with before, during, and after Eric's death. But we're going to start with some more recent news. On Friday, at a pre-trial conference, one of the topics that they talked about was the amount of discovery in the case that the defense has been handed, which is around 11 terabytes. So what's the equivalent of 11 terabytes in the real world? That would be over 3 months of nonstop 1080p HD videos, 2.2 to 3.6 million photos, 7.5 years of streaming nonstop music, 11 million standard documents, 110 full-sized modern video games. So as you can see, a lot of discovery in this case. Her attorney, Kathy Nestor, told the court, "I don't mean anything that has anything to do with whether she killed her husband or not. I'm talking about just the universe of prosecuting Kouri Richins has become outrageous." The judge said it's a best practice from the perspective of prosecutors to overproduce rather than underproduce. He ordered the state to send the defense a draft of their witness list and exhibits for the murder trial. And in doing this, it could shrink the work needed to identify what's most important in this sea of data, which can often include duplicates of documents. The state's final exhibit list and witness list is due October 31st, and the next conference scheduled to discover the best way to manage all this data is set for December 5th. Also, Kouri could enter pleas in the next few weeks for the dozens of new financial charges. We know she has pleaded not guilty to the murder charges. Also, back in June, the Utah Supreme Court declined to hear Kouri's appeal about having a Salt Lake City jury hear the case instead of a Summit County jury. This is the second denial for Kouri regarding jury-related appeals that's been filed. The ruling is that the jury will come from Summit County and the trial will not be moved. It will be held at the Silver Summit Justice Center just outside of Park City, Utah. Looking back through the state's first notice of intent to offer, Rule 404B evidence, which is other crimes, wrongdoings, the state notes both evidence it intends to offer in its case in chief and evidence it may offer in rebuttal or impeachment. The state notices the latter because it can envision circumstances where the defense introduces evidence or arguments that Kouri was a successful business person or was engaged in normal business practices, or if the defendant testifies and puts her credibility at issue. In these circumstances, it would be permissible for the state to introduce evidence of the defendant's numerous financial frauds and other crimes, wrongdoings, wrongs, or acts. Some of the 404B evidence they mention is Kouri obtaining that $250,000 home equity line of credit on Eric's home without his knowledge or consent by using a durable power of attorney. Kouri and Eric's unpaid federal income tax liability totaled over $300,000. And Kouri Richins Realty had $10,095 in unpaid property tax liabilities. She was on the phone with IRS for approximately 1 hour the day before Eric's death. This is relevant because it proves the monetary gain aggravator and her motive, intent, plan, absence of mistake, and lack of accident in causing Eric's death. The evidence proves a unique motive. Not only did Kouri cause Eric's death to pay the tax liability, but also to prevent Eric from learning. She diverted C&E's tax distributions and learning the extent of their outstanding non-dischargeable obligations. How this came to be is C&E distributed over $220,000, which represented estimated quarterly taxes due. Kouri falsely informed her and Eric's accountant that she remitted that money to the IRS when in fact she used that money for other purposes. Another example of 404B evidence the state would seek to introduce is between August 28th, 2021 through December 28th, 2021, Kouri's Navy Federal Credit Union checking account balance ranged between $0 and negative $51.41. During that same period, Kouri wrote 7 checks from this account totaling $36,600 payable to herself or K. Richins Realty. All 7 checks were returned unpaid. In the 5 months preceding Eric's death, Kouri sought to withdraw over $300,000 from her Business America First Credit Union, and of course, there were insufficient funds. This resulted in 198 separate overdraft and return transaction fees totaling almost $5,000. What I don't understand is how this wasn't caught before, in the midst of all this moving money around and bouncing checks. On December 9th, 2021, Greengrass Holdings sued Kouri, her business, and her aunt, Doreen Kouri, in the Supreme Court of New York for breach of contract and on their personal guarantees. The amount claimed was $87,532 plus interest, costs, and disbursements. They also mention Kouri accessing C&E's stonemasonry account online and changing the beneficiary for Cody Wright's life insurance policy from Eric to her and then back again. They also bring up Kouri's best friend wiring her the $45,000 as a down payment on that home she was supposed to be purchasing from Kouri. But as we know, Kouri did not apply the amount as a down payment or transfer the title of the home to her best friend. Instead, Kouri spent the money repaying other high-interest loans and short-term obligations. On the morning after Eric died, Kouri wasted no time stating she was going to sell the Willow Court home. Now, on March 6, 2022, Kouri learned from Eric's sister Amy that the Eric Richins Living Trust owned the home and that Eric's sister Katie was the trustee and was the one in control of Eric's estate. Kouri's reaction was so overwhelming that she lost it. She punched Amy Richins a couple of times, and when Amy went outside to call the cops, Kouri had an emotional meltdown in front of her best friend, collapsing to the garage floor. She was screaming and rocking back and forth. The state says this is relevant because Kouri believed the home would become hers upon Eric's death, and how intensely Kouri needed ownership of the home. Another piece they intend to introduce is on September 12th, 2023, Kouri wrote the walk the dog letter to tamper with witness testimony, manipulate publicity, and retaliate against Eric's family. They also mention her falsifying those bank statements to get the mortgage loans. On March 17th, 2023, Kouri fraudulently transferred her mother's home to K. Richins Realty by convincing her mother to sign papers that would supposedly add Kouri's name to her mother's deed. Instead, the papers transferred the title of the home to Kouri Richins Realty. Kouri then encumbered her mother's home with another $135,000 loan. To obtain this loan, Kouri falsely told the lender she was going to rehab her mother's new home and said she had been doing fix and flips for about 5 years now. In fact, she said she had done nearly 40 flips. On February 10th, 2022, Kouri falsely advertised to certain prospective investors that she was contributing to funding the purchase of that Midway mansion. However, Kouri did not contribute to funding the purchase of the mansion and instead received $81,386 cash back at closing. The last thing they say is that she purchased fentanyl. So what do we know about her lover, Robert Joshua Grossman? Well, they had a relationship before, during, and after Eric's death, to include, without limitation, text messaging regarding future plans as a couple and planning a vacation together for April of 2022. This comes from the testimony of Grossman. In another filing, they talk about her affair with the handyman. Now, this is not the handyman William Hayden Jeffs, who she asked to buy fentanyl and propofol from. He unfortunately passed away in a motorcycle accident, but Before his death, he did interview with investigators and supplied them with text messages which verified his statements that she did ask him to get fentanyl and propofol. Back to the affair, it says Kouri engaged in a long-term romantic affair with Josh Grossman. Mr. Grossman has referred to the relationship in the communications with Kouri as 6 years in duration, and Kouri did not correct him. Their affair continued for approximately 9 months after Eric's death, and they say that Kouri's characterization of the affair as brief is inaccurate. The existing record contains daily, emotionally involved, intimate text message between Kouri and Mr. Grossman, envisioning a future together without Eric. In fact, Kouri made reservations for them at Secrets Resort in St. Martin on December 7th, which is before Eric's death. The trip was $4,211, and it was scheduled for that April for 5 days, which would have been the month after Eric died. Her attorneys claim the trip was never paid for. Just days after Eric's death, Kouri texted Mr. Grossman a link to the romantic resort and said, "Are we there yet?" The state says these texts are admissible as statements of a party opponent for the effect of the hearer and as present sense impressions. The nature of Kouri's relationship with Mr. Grossman is relevant because it proves her motive, intent, plan, absence of mistake, and lack of accident in causing Eric's death. Now, there is a jail transcript. This call was after a document had been filed in court, and the conversation is between Kouri and her mother, Lisa. This looks to be around spring of last year. So just a little heads up before we dive into this transcript. Some of this doesn't make sense as far as everything they're talking about. So if you get confused, welcome to the club. But I'm just reading this transcript in its entirety. And so let's start that transcript. They say their hellos, and Kouri says, "So when were those two dated for those subpoenas?" Lisa, "That letter I just received?" Kouri, "Yeah, not the letter for the kids." Lisa, "The vacation place?" Kouri, "And the other one." Lisa, "Oh, that one just happened today." Kouri, "Both of them?" Lisa, "There was only one." Kouri, "In one letter?" Lisa, "Are we talking about the subpoena they just issued?" Kouri, "Yeah, for the vacation and the thing in Heber." Lisa, No. Nothing about the thing in Heber. That was just brought to my attention because from my old friend who said, way back when, Lisa, somebody said, and they said it was no big deal. The other party already knew. So that could be gossip, but it might be something you need. You know what I'm saying? Kouri, "Oh, so what were the 3 letters? The kids, the vacation, and?" Lisa says, "And that, but it wasn't a letter. The vacation wasn't a letter either. That was just a new document that was filed." Kouri, "It's a subpoena? I get that. So there was no document on the Heber? That's just something going around?" Lisa, "Yes." Kouri says, "Okay." Kouri, "Will you take a picture of that one, the vacation one, and send the picture to Sky?" That was her previous attorney. "And say, Kouri would like you to oppose this if possible." Lisa, "Okay, yeah, it just went out today." Kouri, "Yeah, well, good. Will you screenshot it and send it to her?" Lisa, "Okay." Kouri says, "I just tried to call her, but she didn't answer. There is a section here that's redacted out." Kouri says, "Yeah, that's perfect." Lisa, "Okay." Kouri, "So do you have a copy of that you can screenshot?" Lisa, "Of that? I will here in 1 minute." Kouri, "Oh, okay. It's just not their effing business, you know?" Lisa, "Right." Kouri, "Where we vacation?" Lisa, "Right. And they've got a certain name on there, and they're looking at that's in there. They want accounts, records, and bookings." Kouri, "I'm trying to think what we've booked. I know Hawaii and Mexico." Lisa, "Yeah, see, and there again, it comes back to reaching." Kouri, "Exactly. They're so effing ridiculous." Lisa, "What does any of that have to do with his death?" Kouri, "Right, exactly. That's why I'm like, no, what does this have to do with anything? So yeah, if you'll screenshot it, Just send it to Sky and say, Kouri wants you to oppose this. It's BS. Lisa says, okay. Kouri, actually, I think me and the girls booked a Costa Rica through there. We never went, but Lisa says it doesn't even matter. Kouri, I know. That's what I'm saying. I think that's why I'm so annoyed, because what the hell does that have to do with anything? Lisa, right. Kouri. And so it's just like, why do you keep, because they're effing reaching, and who cares about that? Lisa, yeah, exactly. Kouri, and who cares about that other thing from Heber? Lisa, that's what Ronnie said too. So the F what? He did this. Crap was going south. Kouri, well, yeah, and he did the exact same thing. We have the name of her. Lisa, right. Kouri, so what the hell does that matter? Lisa, right. Do you know her name? Kouri says yes. Lisa, okay, so these are just things. Kouri must interrupt. Yeah, so I'm thinking, Lisa, you'll want to list with Sky. Kouri, stupid ass is the one who told us about it. It was in one of her filings a year ago. Lisa, I'd be curious if they were about the same time. Kouri, well, they were. Same year. So, I'm like, what the crap does that matter? Where did that even come from? Lisa, where did I hear about it? Kouri, yeah. Lisa, through Janine, who said, by the way, Lisa, months, at the very beginning, somebody said it was no big deal because the other side had it. She said, and I just forgot about it until the other one said something to me that somebody ought to tell Kouri, just for a heads up. Kouri, well, she knows they did the same thing, right? Lisa, okay, I'm going to assume. Kouri, I would hope so too. Lisa, right, because I think it came out in court one day and Kouri says yes. Lisa, he was looking to Kouri, so I wonder, does she know that? Lisa, so yeah, she's got to know. Well, when do you talk to her again? Kouri, no, I'm not talking about mine. I'm talking about your lady. Lisa, yeah, and what you went with, if you think about it like this, they don't want to put that person on the stand. Kouri, oh, they don't? Lisa, I wouldn't think so. Kouri, well, yeah, no, Lisa, well, you think about it, that'd make them look like an idiot. Kouri, well, that's what I mean, like, what the F? Lisa, but like I said, right now, it's gossip and yeah. Kouri, I just don't get what anything has to do with anything. I'm just like, I'm going to tell Sky to start frickin' opposing every effing subpoena they have. This is getting effing ridiculous. Lisa, yes, I agree. Kouri, so when you text her, say not only this one, but everyone in the future. This is effing ridiculous. Lisa says, right, okay, I'm going to try to call her. Kouri says, well, I just tried to, so she's probably... Lisa says, but if she didn't answer you, then Kouri says, yeah, you can. Well, you can try to call her. Lisa, okay, I'll send her a text saying. Then Kouri interrupts. If she doesn't answer, then yes, send her the text with the screenshot and say, Kouri wants you to oppose this and any more moving forward because it's just effing ridiculous. Her mom, Lisa, okay. Kouri says, all right, text me when you're done. Moving on to the relationship. Just days after Eric's death, Kouri texted Mr. Grossman a link to the romantic resort and said, are we there yet? These texts are admissible as statements of party opponent for the effect of the hearer and present sense impressions. The nature of Kouri's relationship with Mr. Grossman is relevant because it proves her motive, intent, plan, absence of mistake, and lack of accident in causing Eric's death. After the attempt on Valentine's Day in 2022, she texted Eric she was waiting for her cabinet installer guy. The same day, Eric texted a friend, I think I almost died. I think my wife tried to poison me. On February 19th, Kouri allegedly texted Grossman, I want you today, every day. Not just sexually, but physically, mentally. Every day when I wake up, I do want a future together. I do want you. Figure your life out together. If he could just go away and you could just be here, life would be so perfect. I love you. Another text from Kouri says, I have a crazy dream. You quit your job, I divorce and come up with millions and millions. We buy Midway and live in the guest house and rent out the huge house as a big event center. She said running the event center would be their daily job and hang out every day, raise some kids, have a little farm. Deal. The very night Eric was killed, she texted Grossman a photo of two people kissing and said, "Love you." From March 6th through the 11th, she texted Grossman, "Love you," 5 times. Court filings say that the two met up on a mountain where she asked if he'd ever killed anyone while in the military in Iraq. When he said yes, she asked how it felt. Then on April 9th, she texted, "I think I want you to be my husband one day." Investigators learned about Grossman through interviews with her family and friends. This isn't in the documents I'm reading, but this is from a search warrant of Grossman's phone. In February of 2022, Kouri texted him, "If I was divorced right now and asked you to marry me tomorrow, would you? I just want to lay on the couch and cuddle you, watch a murder documentary and snuggle." 2 weeks later, she texted, "Life is going to be different, I promise. I hate your hard days. I wish I could be there to turn them around for you. Can I try Friday? Give me a few days. Hang in there until then, please." Kouri eventually kicked him out of one of her condos in Saratoga Springs in November of 2022, which left him homeless and living out of a Ford F-150 pickup, which he claims Kouri gave him. This was heard on dashcam video after one of his several run-ins with the law after he was evicted. Now, friends of Kouri say she kicked him out because, according to her, he was using meth. In that dashcam video, he identified Kouri as his girlfriend. Investigators found this dashcam video after learning of her affair from family and friends. Now, among his alleged crimes, he was arrested for trespassing, also for the theft of a $14,000 trailer and scissor lift he had rented from Home Depot in Salt Lake City. In another incident, he was asleep in his truck with the engine running in a residential neighborhood, and there was alcohol in the truck, including open containers. He was cited for the open containers. In an affidavit, law enforcement said Grossman had several phones they wanted to examine, including 2 he said Kouri gave him, and which they communicated on around the time of Eric's death. One of the affidavits reads he was an extramarital sexual partner of Kouri's prior to and after the death of her husband. The state said Kouri wanted to leave Eric for Grossman, but thought a divorce would be financially difficult, and she was afraid of losing her children. Now, it's been reported that Grossman has been granted immunity by the state, so we will see. As far as a divorce consultation, Kouri told family and friends she consulted with a divorce attorney, but that retainer was refunded in January of 2022. The fact that Kouri considered divorce and rejected it in favor of causing Eric's death is relevant and highly probative because the premarital agreement provided Kouri would not gain interest in C&E if she and Eric divorced, but she would gain interest if Eric died while they were still married. The last part is cell phone deletions. Nearly all of the texts and other electronic data stored on Kouri's phone in the 2 months preceding Eric's death and the 2 weeks following his death has been deleted. This is the only mass deletion found on the phone. A jury could reasonably infer the defendant caused the deletions. This evidence is relevant to show Kouri's consciousness of guilt, which grounds in the defendant's motive, intent, plan, absence of mistake, and lack of accident in causing Eric's death. They also mentioned Kouri exchanged a high number of text messages with the woman she got fentanyl from, particularly 3 days leading up to the attempted murder and then 5 days before the murder. So that's it for today. Just wanted to put that out there. A little bit of digging I did over the weekend through a lot of the documents I have to pick out some more of these little nuggets that at least I'm not familiar with. And also just a little bit more about the affair she was having. Hope you guys have a good rest of your evening, and we will see you soon.